Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new collection update. Now usually when I do a collection update, it's because I ran out of time to do a regular review, I ran out of time for editing, and it's partially true this week, but it's also because stuff's been piling up. I've kind of went crazy in the last few months because, well, I could. And this weekend, well, today when I'm recording this video, I just came back from Requiem Fearfest. I really have a hard time with that word, and it's a super small convention in Montreal, and I go there with my boy Paul from Grindhouse Funhouse, and we always have a great time, but usually there's just a few vendors that sell movies, but this year there was also a small amount, but the ones that were there were some of my favorite companies, including Severin Films, which if you know anything about me, I'm in Canada, and Severin Films, well, they're crazy expensive, so anytime they're at a convention, I usually pick up a few things. And then, of course, we had Vinegar Syndrome, who had titles that they just released for this month, and some of them looked very interesting, so I picked a few of those up. So without further ado, let's get into this crazy collection update. It's not gonna be that crazy, but for me it is, because it's probably my last super duper big collection update. Why did I say super duper? Am I in 2004? Speaking of the 2000s, the first movie is actually fairly recent, which if you know me, that's surprising, and that is the Raven Banner edition of The Sadness, which I've covered on my channel, so if you haven't seen that video, go give it a watch. This was not only one of my favorite films from the year it came out, which was, I think, 2022, this was my favorite film of that year. And it's a infected/zombie film, but it brings something new to the table, and I also adore the amazing brutality and sheer just brutality of the film. Yes, it's fairly standard when it comes to zombie films, and it was also shot during the thing I can't really say, or can I say it again? Can I say the pandemic on YouTube? It's been so long, but yeah. It was shot during that. There is that theme that runs through the film. But yeah, I highly recommend it if you like brutal films. Even if you're not a modern zombie fan, which I am not, this is so brutal and so great that you will probably enjoy it if you enjoy the red gore stuff. Now on to Vinegar Syndrome, which again, they had not a lot of titles. That's my cat playing with something. So the way that Vinegar Syndrome ends up at this convention, because it's not the first year they were there, is that the guy who used to run it, who I don't think runs it anymore because he sold it to anyways, he brings a few titles that the owner or the guy that takes care of Vinegar Syndrome in Canada sends him, which is usually the newer stuff and then some of the older stuff. So I usually don't pick up a lot of things. I usually, or especially around this time of year, I'm waiting for the Black Friday sales, but they had some new titles that intrigued me. And those were Amazon Gel 1 and 2. Now, you know your boy Spooky loves his women in prison films, and when these got announced, I knew I had to have them. I almost bought them right away, which I'm glad I did, because even though these were convention prices for Vinegar Syndrome, they weren't that convention-y. Most of them were a few bucks less than buying them on Vinegar Syndrome, the Canada version, but what you do save is taxes and shipping, which taxes are a lot in Canada, and shipping, as you guys heard me complain a lot in these videos, is also fairly expensive. So if I'm not mistaken, these are some Spanish or Mexican. They're from a Spanish-speaking country, and they're women in prison films, which I adore. And yeah, I never heard of them, but as soon as I saw Vinegar Syndrome put this out, some 80s sleaze, I knew I had to have them. So I'll give them a watch. I might review them eventually on my second channel, like a lot of these films. More Hong Kong stuff. Now this is why I picked a lot of newer Vinegar Syndrome stuff, which I don't usually do. It's because they put out this month some Hong Kong greatness. Well, greatness, I'm not sure, I haven't seen them, but usually when I blind buy Vinegar Syndrome, I'm usually smart about it. I usually think, like, what do I like? And what I like are these types of Hong Kong films, especially this one is like from the early 80s, 82, and it's this, it looks to be this weird in the style of The Boxer's Omen, The Human Lantern, you know, these super goofy but great martial arts horror films. So a mix of two genres I adore, and usually Hong Kong cinema that mixes both of these genres together. Usually the movies come out pretty fucking great. Finally, for the slippies, because again, I'm not like, I like slipcovers, I actually love a lot of them, I think they look great, but if I have the option to pay less and still get the movie, and I don't have the slipcover, it's not the end of the world. However, when you buy a VSA title, you sorta kind of have to buy the slipcover, because they have the different slipcovers, which I'm not a fan of the top-down slipcover, but this is An Eternal Combat. Again, a Hong Kong film, but this one from 91. So I thought to myself this might be a Cat 3. I don't think it is, and it's again this martial arts kind of ghost, kind of horror mix. And the reason I jumped on this one is because I saw that my dear, one of my favorite actors ever, Anthony Wong, is in this motherfucker. So anytime I see a Hong Kong film that looks to be like a horror ghost martial arts thing, and I see Anthony Wong, I buy that. Because Anthony Wong is a amazing actor, and everything I've seen him in, he's always great. Even the shitty Deadly Camp, which I liked. I know it's terrible, but I liked it. He did a good job, at least. He did a good job. Now, this is from a director that I already had bought a film from, and I liked. However, I heard that this one is, like, super... Why am I describing everything as super duper today? I'm really back in my teenage years, before, like, 13, when I said super duper cool. And this is Cemetery of Terror from 1985, and one of the reasons I bought this is because I listened to the Moods podcast on like the best films of 1985, and this was pretty up there for Moods. And the director also did Don't Panic and Grave Robbers, which, is that the one I have? Or am I getting confused with another film? Because I'm sure I have another one of his films in my collection. Pretty sure it's Rest in Pieces, though. So I'm not too sure. So I think Vinegar Syndrome also put out Don't Panic, which if I don't have, I will get. These are the D's. I don't seem to have Don't Panic. Yes, so yeah, Cemetery of Terror. Now we get into the Severin films, and I did something that I don't usually do this convention, and that is upgrading some old ass DVDs that, let's be honest, kind of needed me to update them. My cat is doing something. I'll be back. So yeah, Dr. Butcher MD. So I have the Shriek Show DVD that is under the Zombie Holocaust title, and I watched it recently, and it's a film that I adore. It is such trash, such B-movie Italian perfectness, and I really liked it. And I thought to myself, damn, usually I don't mind Shriek Show, but this release looks rough. And then I looked on Amazon, and I thought to myself, I ain't paying what they're asking for Dr. Butcher MD. So what happened is, yeah, I saw it at the convention today. It was a great price, $25. To compare, usually Severin films on like Amazon.ca are $45 to $50 depending. So I thought to myself, well, Medical Deviant, upgrade, gets an upgrade. I thought this was an upgrade Then I realized that I don't own this film, and I'm really tired. I woke up early to go to Montreal because it's like 2 hours away, and I didn't take out, like, Severin. Why are you the only company that still does this? But yeah, I'm super tired, and I thought to myself that I already own this. And then today, while I was taking out the plastic wrap so you guys could actually see the movies I'm showing, I was looking at the New York Ripper, but I misread that as The New Warriors, which I thought was an alternative title to this one. Ends up, this is a Lucio Fulci film that I don't own. So, that is fucking cool. I do own Conquest, so if this is anything as nutty MD, I don't know, as Conquest, this is gonna be some good old-fashioned Fulci gore in a genre that I wasn't expecting to see Lucio Fulci do. But that's just Italian filmmaking. They did everything. Yeah, this one I'm pretty excited because I really liked Flesh for Frankenstein, which I have somewhere. It's the Umbrella Australian release. But this is Blood for Dracula. Oh yeah. Directed by Paul Morrissey, this is often called Andy Warhol's Dracula. As far as I know, Andy Warhol didn't have anything to do with this, and he just liked to slap his goddamn name on things. This, of course, stars the boy, the love, one of the sexiest men in European cinema, Udo Kier. He's basically the female equivalent of Laura Gemser, in my opinion. The male equivalent to Laura Gemser. I ain't gay, but if I was... I mean, even that, out of respect, I just do it. It's Udo Kier, goddammit. Oh yeah, this I am so excited, because I watched this at work the other day, and on a shitty Tubi transfer, and it already slapped hard, so I can't imagine how badass it will be on an actual good transfer, and that is Raiders of Atlantis by the dear departed Ruggero Deodato. Yeah, this movie fucks hard. It stars a lot of people that were in Strike Commando, Cannibal, Apocalypse, and of course George Hilton, Ivan Rashomov. Like, the cast is incredible, and it's like this action, post-apocalyptic, kind of weird fucking mix-mash of everything, and it's of course Ruggero Deodato. It's so... like the quote says on the back, fucking awesome, because that's what this movie is. It is fucking awesome. Now lastly, for the Severin table, don't worry, there is a lot of Severin films in this update, especially from one director in specific. You can probably guess who. But this is, again, I'm not the biggest, like, I love slipcovers when they look good. This is one of the best looking slipcover I've seen. This catch my attention not only because this is a Video Nasties that I didn't have, I Miss You Hugs and Kisses, but this slip is so gorgeous. God damn, Severin, you really outdone yourself with this one. Like, this is probably, especially like the Severin, like, Vinegar Syndrome got their slip game on top. Severin is kind of lagging behind, which is why I don't buy most of their titles with slipcovers, because I never really like them. But this one. Plus, the movie looks good. I have a subscriber who watches my update videos, and he talks a lot about the Video Nasties, and I know he'll comment on this. Oh shit! This is Canucksploitation! What? Really? Holy shit! That's even better! What? The Canadians made a movie that ended up on the goddamn fucking Video Nasties list? I didn't know that. Now I'm suddenly really... Damn, that just kicked my patriotic gears into action. God damn. Hi, you. Yes, my cat is back. Wow, okay, I'm really excited for I Miss You Hugs and Kisses now. Just Franco. Yeah, you guessed it. There is so, especially if you've been following me on Instagram, there is gonna be a lot of Franco in this update. I have more coming in the mail. Goddamn, do I have a Franco addiction. And this one, I'm not sure if they just re-released it on Blu-ray. If so, it's probably exclusive to their website. It's probably too much money to buy for me, so I'm glad I found this. And this is the Inconceivable Orgies of Emmanuel. So you got Franco doing Emmanuel, homes, boys and girls, and everything in between. This is gonna be incredibly sleazy, and it's probably porn. Not too sure. Uncut and uncensored. This might not be porn, but it's gonna be as close to porn as a softcore movie can get. Because you get just Franco, you get... There's no Linda Rome in this one, apparently. There is just the Robert Foster, which is not the Robert Foster that most Americans are familiar with. Now we gotta talk about Delirium. So, in my collection, I have Delirium, the Video Nasty, from the early 70s, and then I have Delirium from Lamberto Bava, I think, from the late 80s, and today I ended my Delirium trilogy with the 70s Delirium. The Italian one, Africa Wants Belly Rubs. So just look at Delirium while I give my cat belly rubs, because she deserves them. She's been alone for a couple of hours because I was in Montreal, so she wants little belly rubs. So yeah, and from what I heard, again from the Moods podcast, they did this one for one of their Italian month. It's sleazy as a balls, and I'm pretty sure Vinegar Syndrome also just released this, because I'm pretty sure they had the Blu-ray at the Vinegar Syndrome table. So yeah. Can't wait to watch this. I did just buy the DVD because it was super cheap, and I do like myself some Blue Undergrounds. I think you can see them, probably not, but they're right here. I do still collect a lot of the Blue Underground titles. I have nostalgia because Blue Underground was like the first company that I bought movies from that I really loved, like the Italian stuff, the Fulci stuff, the Argento stuff. Some of the Bava stuff, no Bava stuff, but yeah, so I have a little, I still like my goddamn Blue Underground. So I'll take a short break because I have more stuff, and I'll go get myself a beer. For anybody wondering how like dedicated I am to being a cat guy, I even drink beers named after felines. This is great, by the way, shout out Singapore. Our dear friends at Vinegar Syndrome this month decided, well, in the last few months, decided to have a ton of sales for no reason. Like there was the Labor Day one and then the Culture Shock one. So I got a lot of stuff from the VS sales. And here's a few of them. Before that, I need to rub my cat's belly because she wants me to rub her belly. Oh, no biting. Oh, belly rub. Alright, so the first one I got wasn't from a sale. I don't know why I bought this, because there was a sale like a couple... No, did I get this from... I don't know, I don't remember. This is the 4K for Schizoid with cinema's worst piece of shit bastard to ever grace the silver screen. Of course, I'm talking about Klaus Kinski. Who else would I be talking about when I'm describing such a repugnant human being? And then we got X-Ray, which I actually watched. So this is the good thing about this update, is I haven't done an update in so long that I've actually had time to watch a lot of these. And I have to say that X-Ray is a pretty good, middle of the line, nothing spectacular, but nothing offensive, like, you know, a 7 out of 10, let's just say, slasher film from the 80s. The actress Babby Benton definitely, like, is the reason you watch it, because every scene she's in, she's great. The rest of the cast is okay. It's a film I would recommend to every self-respecting slasher fan from the that likes slashers from the 80s. And Schizoid, I'll wait to see. This is a pretty cool. I didn't even show this. It's a 4K, which I don't even own a 4K player, but again, it comes with the Blu-rays. It's Canon Group produced, which I usually dodge. Not Canon's biggest fan personally. Other than the time they got weird with Toby Hooper, which anytime Toby Hooper is let out to make the movies that Toby Hooper wants to make, it is usually a good thing. So. Then we got some Culture Shock because Culture Shock are going in the way of Terror Vision, so they're no longer partnered with Vinegar Syndrome. So you can still get these, well, the ones that aren't sold out, for fairly cheap, $10 US, $13 Canadian. So if you're looking for some cheap Culture Shock releases, be aware that most of Culture Shock releases are shot on video films. I say that, and I think the first one I picked up isn't shot on video. Yeah, it's a 35mm. It's raw nerve. I was like, be aware, most of their title are shot on video, and then I pulled up, one is what is probably one of the only older title that isn't, because they also release modern films. Raw nerve, I haven't seen this one. This is gonna get probably a screening pretty soon. It's directed by David A. Pryor, which, if you're familiar with bad movies, you should know the name, because he did Deadly Prey, which I wasn't a fan of. I thought it was just a bad movie. I didn't see the fun in it, but again, I need to rewatch it probably, because it's been years. I still own it. Then this one, I did watch this one. Yeah, I did. Okay, Night Ripper. I had a bootleg of this for like a year that I got in Toronto last year at Horrorama. And yeah, I got this year. And it's a shot on video film on Blu-ray. I still am confused about that, by the way. There's probably a technical reason for it. They're because you can get probably uncompressed files from like the master tapes. But yeah, this is basically a guy kills women for 86 minutes. It's shot on video. It's a slasher. It's not great, but it's also kind of fun. Out of the two I watched from this Culture Shock releasing cell, this is definitely the highlight. This is the one that is more fun, more SOV, more painstakingly SOV, as some would say. It is trashy, but it, again, is a lot of cop procedures, like a lot of shot-on-video films from this era. Yeah, this gets a recommend if you find it cheap. I mean, once Culture Shock is kind of done with Vinegar Syndrome, would I pay more than $10 for this? Probably not. You know what I would certainly never pay more than $10 for? Slashdance. Although I have to admit, at this point when I watched this, I was pretty fucking intoxicated, so I don't remember much, but I remember this not being good. It promises sleaze, it delivers nothing. I don't even think there's nudity in this. There might be one tit, which is weird because if you look at the cover, and if you look at the back, it looks like fucking sleazy, naughty garbage. It's just garbage. It's not really good. My Letterboxd review is Phantom of the Opera for the people who rode the short bus. That tells you everything you need to know. This isn't great. Now we get into the Labor Day sale, which nothing to celebrate our hardworking labor than making us spend a lot of money. They didn't make me spend it, I just did. Because I have a problem. If you haven't realized yet, my budget today was like $200. After Severin and Vinegar Syndrome, that budget was busted. Petey Wheatstraw, the Devil's Son-in-Law. Now this is of course a classic film starring the wonderful Rudy Ray Moore, the god of the blaxploitation movement from the 70s, and I don't own a lot of his movies. I own Dolomite, which I don't even remember watching, but it's somebody I want to get more into, and I'll probably pick up whatever I have left, which I think is Human Tornado and the Disco Godfather, on the next sale, because I'm really curious, and yeah. So PD Wheatstraw, I bought this one on this sale because this seems to be one that is more up my alley. The boys from the Sick on Cinema podcast covered Rudy Remorse film, and out of all of them, this one really was a highlight for me. So it's like a mix of horror and comedy and Rudy Remorse typical comedic stylings. So yeah, can't wait to watch this one. Oh yeah, more shot on video films on Blu-ray because we're all suckers. Limbo. Now this is Tina Krause's Limbo. If you're familiar, Tina Krause was kind of a mid to really kind of popular in the horror indie underground world. She was a scream queen who was in a lot of SOV films and lower budgeted horror films, and she made her own. And it's fucking incredible. It's really artsy, it's really experimental, it is confusing at parts, especially when you've been drinking, but I really liked it. This was definitely a highlight for me from this cell. Yeah, this is the slipcover. Slipcover looks pretty good. I really like the cover they did for the re-release than the original cover. This looks like SOV shit. Which this is SOV, but it's just not shit. It's really good experimental. It's from 1999. Once again, directed by Tina Krause. It stars, I think, her sister? Not too sure. Yeah, it's a really good fucking movie. This was recommended to me because of the Show Me Something Wrong episode on it. And if you don't listen to that podcast, you should, because it's great. Now this is a doozy. I know this is going to be bad. I have been warned by the boys that this is going to be terrible. But I'm not going to watch the extended cut, because I ain't got 3 fucking hours on an SOV film. It's Boarding House. So, Boarding House is this weird, which by the way, released by AGFA. Boarding House is this weird SCP movie that shouldn't exist, where they basically made a shot on video film, and then were like, man, this needs to be in theaters. So they blew out a goddamn SOV film to a fucking 35mm print. And I've heard that this movie isn't great. Now, I do realize that it's probably not great. I mean, like most SOV film, most of them are not amazing, but they're fun, so maybe this will be fun. I think this, if you watch the, I feel like if you watch the regular 80 minutes something original theatrical cut, it might be fun, but I feel like if you watch the 3 fucking hour long, is it 3 hour long? There is a cut of Boarding, yeah, there is apparently a cut that is so painfully long, which it's not the one I'm going to be watching. I am not watching. Look, 90 minutes is too long for an SOV movie. I ain't watching more than 2 hours of SOV. Tina Krause was right on the money. She did a shot on video film. It was 55 minutes. Perfect. More Delirium. This time, Blood Delirium. Ooh. This is an Italian film directed by the man who made one of the most nonsensical, confusing mess of a giallo, In the Folds of the Flesh. Now, I really loved In the Folds of the Flesh, but as I said on Letterboxd, I don't recommend it. It's nonsensical. It's kind of all over the place. The ending makes no fucking sense. It was recommended, in the Severin Cellar with that podcast that Rebecca McKinley is on, director of Glorious, which I don't know why I listened to her opinion, because Glorious is a terrible fucking movie. But I ended up actually liking In the Folds of the Flesh. So when I saw this, I knew I kind of had to have it, especially for the price. Like, yeah, it's probably going to be a mess. Probably not going to be great. I mean, The Folds of the Flesh wasn't amazing. But what I know, based on watching In the Folds of the Flesh, is at least it'll be styling. Which is what I like about Italian films a lot of the time, is at least it'll be styling. It's gonna be style over substance, like In the Folds of the Flesh, hopefully. So this is gonna be fun. I'm really excited for this one. I do. At the end of the day, I did really like In the Folds of the Flesh. 2 of those drive-in collections, because they were $5 fucking. At this point, they're giving them away. If they're not out of print, you damn well sure know that next sale, they'll be selling for $5 each. And these are the drive-in movie collection. I also got a shirt from the sale. I think I'm cleaning it right now. So, The Executioner Part 2, which I watched. It's fucking awful, don't watch it. Frozen Scream, which is a video nasty that I already owned on VHS. And the VHS is really a weird cover. Like, it's this super 80s babe type of vibe. But this is from like the early 70s. Oh no, this is from the early 80s. But still, it doesn't fit in with what I know the film is. It's just this screaming 80s babe in a bikini. And I'm like, on like a ugly, ugly orange background. I'm just like, okay. I got the VHS for cheap. I haven't watched it. Should probably. I think eventually I'll do a like collection style video that I did with this collection, but for my VHSs, which I'm sure some of you might be interested in. Some of you still like VHSs, right? And then we got this one I'm more hopeful for, because these are regional 70s. Whoa, one of them is 62, and it's in color, and it's from Texas? What the fuck? So yeah, this is one of them is from fucking 62, and in color, and from Texas, land of Whataburger and racism, you got it. And then we got Death by Invitation, which, 70s stuff. I like my slow burn 70s stuff. I'm gonna go answer some messages, and then come back with the pile of, what I like to call Franco and Kino Lorber. And I also like to call it, I need somebody to fucking block my bank account. I've had some comments telling me like, oh, you look sweaty, ew, wash your body. Fuck, guys. It's hot in here. I closed the window for sound. I have a light in my face. I'm just a sweaty boy in general. I do take showers twice a day at least, so yeah. Just try recording a video with fucking professional lighting, and you might sweat too. That was my rant of the day. And this has nothing to do with Kino or my addiction to Jess Franco. This is just a movie that I was waiting for its release, and I'm so glad to finally own it, because I wanted to see this film since like 2021. When The Boys, I reference The Boys a lot. I'm speaking, of course, about John and Matt from the Sick on Cinema podcast. Their first episode back was Ermin Yao and Anthony Wong, and I already talked about Anthony Wong. And all of those movies got released, except one. And everybody was waiting. Is it going to be Severin? Is it going to be Vinegar Syndrome? And then 88 films out of nowhere, which they also released this in the States through their American subdivision, just released Taxi Hunter. And this is fucking amazing. I don't want to say too much because I will definitely cover this in a video in the future, but this is right up there to me with Anthony Wong's and Ermin Yao's other films, that being Untold Story and Ebola Syndrome. This is not as sleazy as those other two. This takes a completely different direction, and Anthony Wong also takes a completely different direction. But yeah, this is amazing. Go buy it. It was totally worth the 55 Canadian dollars I paid for it. And then people wonder why I drink. Because I have to deal with this horse. Oh, I didn't even show the goddamn. I'm so sorry. This is the original cover, of course. The Hong Kong cover. Yeah. This, yeah. I was gonna get into the movie, but like I said, I want to do a full dedicated video to that, so I won't be getting into too many details. However, do keep an eye out for that eventual video. Yeah, so, Kino also had a sale. There's still one as I'm recording this video, but I won't be participating because I just spent a lot of money. And anyways, they'll have another one next week because they have sales up the goddamn wazoos. So every time Kino has a sale, and there's a Franco film that I don't own that is on sale, which is becoming harder and harder because I own most of his goddamn stuff at this point, at least the Redemption line stuff. But this one I didn't own, and this is classic era Franco. So this is Spanish and France, which kind of like Dr. Orloff. It's the sadistic Baron von Klaus. Black and white, 62. If I base my if I base what I assume this is going to be from my experience with early 60s Franco films, is this is going to feel like a classic kind of universal horror film with a lot of atmosphere and more sleaze than you'd see in those earlier films, but still really not sleazy, especially not compared to what I bought today, the Emmanuel one. So don't expect like 70s and 80s Franco from these films. This is a much more subdued, mainstream, audience-pleasing Franco. When you go into his older filmography, it's not gonna be the Franco you expect, especially if you know his 80s stuff, which included a hardcore porn. So this is fairly tame, but it's also from a completely different era in his career. This is like early Franco. Then, why did I buy this? Every time I've looked at the stuff I bought on that Kino sale, I always wonder, out of anything that was on that website, why did I have to buy fucking Astro Zombies by Ted V. Michaels? Now, if you don't know, which you should, by the way, do your research on Ted V. Michaels. He is a fascinating character. Eventually, I might have to do a video on him. Don't hold your breath, by the way. It's just an idea I just threw out there. He is Z-grade cinema, I would say. And he did a lot of stuff during the late 60s and 70s. But his 70s stuff, like this one is actually from the 60s, his stuff feels so old. They feel like a shitty, sleazier version of a 50s B-movie, but terrible. Like, a sleazy 50s B-movie sounds great until you watch these, and then you're like, Jesus Christ, that was terrible. His film Corpse Grinders, that Vinegar Syndrome put out, is from 71, I think, but it feels like a fucking Herschel Gordon Lewis film from the early 60s. And I feel like this is probably going to be the same. He is also known for having a massive foot fetish, which he's a pioneer in that. I mean, Tarantino probably got inspired by that. But yeah, Astro Zombie, this is not the type of movie I'll cover on my channel. Maybe on my second channel, because I feel like he is a talentless hack version of Herschel Gordon Lewis, which some people already think that Herschel Gordon Lewis is a hack, so yeah, you can imagine. Of course, everything Ted V. Michaels ever did stars John Carradine while he's fucking clearly intoxicated through most of the goddamn movie. Yeah. I'll probably watch this pretty soon, because, oh fuck, I don't know why. I fucking hate myself, that's why. This one is a proof that I don't indeed hate myself. This is Pete Walker, who's a fairly, not really obscure British director who did a lot of exploitation films in Britain. He's one of the few film exploiteers from Britain, and some of his movies, a lot of them, were cut even in their own country by the British censorship board, and this is his take on the Exorcist fad that was going at the time, so I'm pretty excited to watch it. his films are British, but they don't feel British. They somehow feel really British and not British at all. I did a video on his film Frightmare, which I adore. Frightmare, by the way. That's one of my favorite Pete Walker films. So you should go check that out. But he did work a lot in a lot of genres. He did a woman in prison film. He did Frightmare, which is this kind of weird serial killer cannibal film. And he did an exorcist type of film. So, yeah. Should probably go give that a watch. Oh my god, I love this movie. Oh my fucking god, I'm so glad I got it. So I had a bootleg of this for years. The only good thing is it was completely uncut, but when I saw this at the sale, and it's distributed by Code Red, rest in peace Bill, but this is probably one of their best releases, let's be honest. This is probably post-Kino partnership or acquisition, so yeah. It's fucking Savage Streets with Linda Blair, which Linda Blair is probably the worst part of this film. Every time I see like a post-Exorcist Linda Blair film, I'm always like, god damn, that's a great movie, but holy shit, is Linda Blair the worst part of that movie? In this, I'm being too harsh. She's actually probably one of the best parts of this film, other than Linnea Quigley. Pre-titty job, I think, this is a sleaze. This is 80s sleaze, 80s trash, as trashy as the 80s could go in America. This is it. People think that horror movies in the 80s were trashy. No. They were nothing compared to what was being done in the 70s in Europe. But this is pretty fucking close there, guys. Yeah. Fucking love Savage Streets. Dead Pit. I haven't watched this one yet. I know, like, Dead Pit is a podcast that I listen to from really time to time. Not that often. I'm not a dead pitter. Is that how they're called? But I do enjoy their podcast. And clearly they're named after this film. So I was like, it's on sale. It was like $8. So again, Code Red. Is this also Code Red? Holy shit, I got a lot of Code Red. Blast Fighter, Lamberto Bava's Blast Fighter. I can finally retire this goddamn German gray fucking release. I don't know what this is. It looks cool, but fuck, man. At least this is a Blu-ray. At least I know that this is completely legit. However, this cover kind of fucking slaps. Yeah, it stars Mikhail. Yeah, I did upgrade a lot of stuff this update. Mikhail Sabvik being a insane Rambo type of guy. This is clearly like a Rambo ripoff, and it's fucking great. It's one of the few like super 80s, not like mainstream 80s action film that I really adore. There's like this misconception that I don't like 80s action films. No, I don't like the cheap 80s action film, which I know is sacrilegious to a lot of people who are like fucking kiss the ground that canon films walk on. But like 80s like mainstream action, I'm all for it. RoboCop, one of my favorite films ever. However, this one is like the exception that is fucking amazing. I got more Jean Valin. Again, anytime there's a Kino sale, the redemption titles are always the ones that I go for, and I always try to get a Franco or a Rollin that I don't have. And luckily for me, I don't have the Demoniacs. I haven't seen it yet. I can see from the back, which I won't show. There's no nudity, but with YouTube these days, you never know. It looks like typical Rollin. Beautiful scenery, beautiful women, titties everywhere. Sergio Martino, also one of my favorite Italian directors. This was his Jaws ripoff, and it's also a Code Red. I did get a lot of Code Red, because they were cheap. They were rarely cheap, especially in Canada. fucking code red. The Great Alligator, which I did watch and I did really enjoy. This is pretty much your typical Jaws ripoff. You know exactly what to expect. The difference is there is, what's that girl's name? Barbara Bach. Barbara Bach is in this. Bond girl, sex symbol, British, I think. Most of the Bond girls were British. I don't fucking know. I haven't seen a Bond film in a while. Giant alligator destroys a resort that's in the Amazon, and you have the kind of native aspect which you saw in a lot of cannibal films. It's nuts. It's really good. I really like it. Probably one of my favorite Jaws ripoffs, which there are a lot of. Alright, people. It's time for Just Franco. I got so many Franco. And I still have one coming in the mail this week or next week. At this point, it's a problem. I'm gonna be the only person to be in a Just Franco anonymous fucking meeting. It's okay, we'll have fun. This one, put out by Severin, a really older title from Severin. Like, this is an old Severin release. It's from... Jesus Christ, they existed in 2006? I thought Severin came, like, in the 2010s. What the fuck? That's actually fucking nuts. I didn't know that. I didn't know Severin's history. So yeah, apparently they released Just Franco films even back then. So I assume my copy of Macumba Sexual, I can just say it, which is coming in the mail, is probably going to be also pretty goddamn old. If I'm not mistaken, that like Franco film I had was also like an early Severin release. Damn, that is crazy. So basically, from what I understand, I haven't seen this one yet. I might watch it tonight, we never know. Don't know what I'm watching tonight. I'm probably watching a lot of stuff tonight. From my understanding, this is a Tomb of the Blind Dead ripoff, but with titties. Lots of them. So, this British release of Virgin Among the Living Dead. Kind of regret getting the British one, but the Redemption one is really hard to find here. I think this has some parts cut out, but I think it's added in the extras, if I'm not mistaken. I can't show the back of this. So there's a lot of like little postcards for movies that aren't this, which is so fucking weird. They give you these little postcards. You got Revenge of the House of Usher. Do I own this? You got Crimson, which is not even Franco. Then you have Jean Valin, Zombie Lake. Black House, what are you smoking? If you give me little postcards, make sure they have somewhat of a thing in common with the film that I'm buying. I haven't seen this one. I did watch this one, and it's fucking great. This has bumped into one of my favorite of Franco's film, Female Vampire. It is very Franco in its execution. It is a very slow, like snail pace slow. I'm not kidding, people. If you don't like slow burn films, do not watch this. It's not even a slow burn. There is no conclusion. It's just beautifully shot, beautifully, I don't know how to describe it, melancholic, poetic. It's really fucking amazing. Yeah, it's Lina Romay, just Franco's wife, and she's great in this. And there's a lot of nudity. It's basically a vampire that that transforms or sucks the blood of her victims when they orgasm. That is the most Franco fucking plotline I've ever heard. A vampire that sucks your life force when you come. And I loved it. Speaking of cum, Jesus Christ, Jess Franco was horny. Nightmares Come at Night, which will be the last of the movies I got in the past few months. So with that, I say thank you for tolerating my very long, rambly videos, and I will see you next week with an actual review. Thank you, and see you guys next time.